Okay, so imagine this for a moment. You look up at the night sky, everything feels still, distant, almost frozen in time. But right now, above you, something is falling. A machine that spent months keeping humans alive in space is burning its way back to Earth, breaking apart, disappearing into the ocean. And the strangest part, this wasn't a failure. This was always the plan. Number 5. A spacecraft built to die. On April 21st, 2026, Russia deliberately destroyed a spacecraft, not because something went wrong, but because everything went exactly right. The spacecraft was Progress MS-32. For over 7 months, it was attached to the International Space Station, orbiting Earth every 90 minutes, quietly doing something extraordinary, keeping humans alive where they shouldn't be. Inside, it carried over 5 tons of supplies: food, water, medicine, equipment, and something that sounds almost absurd until you really think about it: air. Air, sealed, transported, and delivered, so someone else could breathe in orbit. Every object inside that spacecraft represented something deeply human: the need to survive, even in the most unnatural environment we've ever entered. But once its mission was complete, its role changed. Because space doesn't allow waste to just exist, the astronauts filled it with everything they no longer needed: used clothes, packaging, broken tools, experiment residue, the hidden cost of living in space, and then they closed the hatch, knowing this was the last time anyone would ever see it intact. Number 4. The final descent. There was no ceremony, no countdown broadcast, just a command sent from Earth at 1:09 in Moscow. The spacecraft quietly detached from the station. From that moment on, it was alone, drifting for a short time in orbit before executing its final maneuver. Its engines fired one last time, but not to escape gravity, to surrender to it. That burn reduced its velocity just enough for Earth to begin pulling it back. Slowly at first, almost imperceptibly, it started falling. A controlled descent, a precise calculation. Because if you get it wrong, you don't just lose a spacecraft, you risk dropping debris somewhere it shouldn't be. But this was planned down to the second. As it entered the atmosphere, the temperature around it rose violently. Thousands of degrees. The structure began to fail. Panels tore away, surfaces melted, and within moments, most of it ceased to exist. Not broken, not damaged. Gone. Converted into heat and light. The few remaining fragments, dense, stubborn pieces of metal, continued their descent toward a place almost no human will ever see. Number 3. Point Nemo. There is a place on Earth so remote that it feels like it doesn't belong to the planet at all. Point Nemo, the oceanic pole of inaccessibility, the farthest point from any land in every direction. Thousands of kilometers of nothing. No ships, no flight paths, no people, just water and silence. It's so isolated that at times, the closest humans to that point are astronauts orbiting above it, looking down. For decades, space agencies have used this place for a very specific reason. It's the safest place on Earth to let things fall from space. More than 250 spacecraft have ended their existence here. Fragments of missions, pieces of history, machines that once circled the entire planet, now resting in complete darkness, nearly 4 kilometers below the surface. And what's even more surreal, this isn't just the past, it's the future. Because in the coming years, the International Space Station itself, one of the most complex structures ever built, will follow the same path, from orbit to fire to ocean floor. Number 2. What it did while you weren't looking before it disappeared. This spacecraft was quietly doing something critical. It was keeping the space station alive. Because the ISS doesn't stay up there on its own. Even at 400 kilometers above Earth, there's still a trace of atmosphere, just enough to create drag, just enough to slow it down, just enough to make it fall, very slowly but constantly. Without intervention, the station would eventually descend and burn up. So missions like this one do something almost invisible. They push it back up, not dramatically, not in a way anyone would notice, just a small adjustment, a kilometer, sometimes less. But that tiny change is the difference between staying in orbit and disappearing. Think about that. Right now, there are engineers calculating movements so small, you'd never perceive them, adjusting trajectories by fractions of speed to keep 6 human beings alive in a place where survival shouldn't exist at all. And it happens without anyone watching. Number 1, the system that never stops. Here's what makes this story even more unsettling. This wasn't the end, it was just a step, because while this spacecraft was burning in the atmosphere, another one was already waiting, prepared, fueled, scheduled. In just a few days, another Progress will launch. It will follow the same path, dock at the same station, deliver the same essentials, and eventually meet the same fate. This has happened nearly 200 times. No interruption, no deviation, a perfect cycle, launch, deliver, support, disappear, over and over again, and most people never notice. The part that stays with you. When we think about space exploration, we imagine milestones, moon landings, Mars missions, moments that define history. But that's not what keeps it alive. What keeps it alive is this: the quiet work, the invisible systems, the machines that are never meant to return. Every meal eaten in orbit, every breath taken, every second spent in that station above you exists because something like this happened first. A spacecraft rose, did its job, and disappeared without a trace. And while all of this was happening, while something was burning in the sky, falling into the most remote place on Earth, you were here, living your day, completely unaware. And maybe that's the strangest part of all. Not that it happened, but how easily it went unnoticed. And remember, the universe doesn't reveal its secrets to those who rush. It reveals them to those who know how to look. Subscribe and keep listening to the silence.